Hey guys, and welcome back to the Yes Means Yes podcast. On this week's episode, we're doing things a little bit different. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, and then I'm going to kind of go into the topic and what's going on. But as usual, my name is Faith Naumcheff. I'm the victim advocate and co-outreach coordinator with Rape Counselors.
Hey guys, I'm Brantley Shields. I am a victim advocate and a co-outreach coordinator as well.
My name is Amanda Carpenter, and I'm a victim advocate outreach specialist.
My name is Dondra Williams, and I am an intern from the University of Baylor, and I'm interning as an advocate with Rape Counselors.
Perfect. So this week, we are going to kind of turn the tables a little bit. Dondra is going to be interviewing us instead of us interviewing others as usual. So Dondra is going to be discussing with me, Brantley, and Amanda about our experiences as victim advocates. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dondra take over.
Okay, guys, it is a great pleasure to be able to speak with you ladies. I get to be in your presence often, but it is still nice to be on this side of the table where I get to ask you the questions. So my first question is what exactly is your role at Rape Counselors, and how long have you been in that role? What do you specifically do?
I guess I'll start. So I have been with Rape Counselors since April of 2018, so about 2.5 years now. I've been in my position as the outreach coordinator for since August 2019, so a little bit over a year in that role, but I've been doing the advocacy since for about 2.5 years. I really kind of just do a little bit of everything, but my main roles are like volunteer management and getting the word out into the community about our services, the resources we're able to provide, and just, spreading general awareness about the issue of sexual assault, which is kind of part of the reason that we started this podcast during COVID.
So I have been with RCEA. I initially started volunteering here and there as my schedule allowed as a student in undergrad. And I have been on staff here at RCEA since October, so I'm a little bit new. And I will be taking over Faith's role as she transitions out of this role starting in January.
I've been at RCEA for, I guess, about 1.5 years now. I started August 2019, and I have my MSW, and I'm currently getting ready to take my licensure test so I can be a licensed LMSW. My role pretty much is I help all the victims any way that we need to. I do the medical advocacy, which means I go to the hospital with them. I'll sit with them during a rape kit, just be that support for them. I do the criminal justice advocacy, which means going to the police stations with them. If they end up going to court, I sit with court with them. I do a little bit of it all. I do the hotline. We do the telehealth right now because we're not able to go into the hospital. I pretty much help Faith and Brantley with whatever they need, going out to the community, going to events. If it wasn't a COVID world, getting our information out, just letting people know, going to the universities, letting the university students know, what you do if you were sexually assaulted, how they can become volunteers, how they can do interns or be an intern. Currently right now, I'm supervising 3 interns that are MSW students, and we have a lot more coming in the spring. So I pretty much just have my hands in everything and just whatever I need to do to give anyone that's been sexually assaulted or their family and friends the best support possible.
Okay, so we keep saying RCEA. What is RCEA, and what specific services does the agency provide?
So I have this memorized. Rape Counselors of East Alabama is a nonprofit organization that provides free and confidential services to victims of sexual assault and their families and friends in the Alabama counties of Lee, Macon, Tallapoosa, and Chambers.
So you told me who RCEA is.
Mm-hmm.
What demographic or who all do you service? Do you only serve women?
So we serve anybody in the community that has experienced sexual assault and sexual violence. So it can be men, women. We don't serve a specific demographic.
And we normally, we serve mainly the ages 14 up to 100, or if you're lucky enough to live past 100. We normally do not typically get children that are under 14 because most of those children go to the CAC, which is the Child Advocacy Center. So if, for instance, we have a child that goes to the hospital, if they're 14 and above, we can give them service. But normally if they're 13, they'll actually send them over to the Child Advocacy Center. And then the same nurses that help at the hospital also go over there to serve those.
So you've told me a little bit about the services that you provide. What specifically does an advocate do? What is your role as an advocate when working with victims?
I would say that our job is to fill kind of any role in that they need. So this is going to be different for each person. When I go and I talk and do the volunteer trainings, I tell them you go to the hospital sometimes, and some victims, they want you to hold their hand through the entire kit. Others, you might really just be there as a girl who goes and fetches juice or makes copies for the nurse. So it really just depends on the person and what they need, but we try to do our best to make this process as easy for them as possible and try to help them in whatever ways we can, whether this is trying to call the police or law enforcement they're working with, trying to get an update on a case, giving them clothes at the hospital, just whatever it is, these small little things that you may not even think of, that's kind of where we try and step in and give them that information.
Okay.
And I would say, really, as an advocate, you're that voice for those that don't have their own voice at the time. Because when someone's been sexually assaulted, or even, a friend or a family, like, for instance, if it's a parent or a guardian and this has happened to their loved ones, they don't know what to do. And sometimes they just don't have the words to say it, or they're just like, I can't. Or if they're talking to a police officer and they're being asked some really uncomfortable, questions, you can kind of step in and be that voice for them and help them, guide them through that process. So I would say just being that voice is probably the biggest thing, because a lot of people, even everybody has different personalities. Some people are more vocal than others. And so as an advocate, I think you want to advocate for those that don't have that voice, or they're just going through so much and they're overwhelmed. And so you want to be there for them.
Now, I heard you mention their family or their friends. So do rape advocates also service or work with friends and families of victims? And what would
Absolutely.
Yep. Anyone who reaches out.
Okay.
So a lot of the time, we'll have people that'll call our hotline.
Yeah.
And it may be like a supervisor, or it may be a coworker, or it may be a roommate or a sorority sister. And they just need the information because their friend is either not able to call, or their friend's scared to call, or they're just trying to help their friend the best they can. So they're going ahead and trying to get that information for them.
Right. So I heard you talk about going into the hospital when you have when a victim goes there. But then I just heard you mention something about a hotline. Can you tell me more about your hotline?
So we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline. So if there's any concerns or questions, or you just want to talk, we have a hotline available, and trained individuals will be on the other end of that hotline and be able to provide you with any information, referrals, or anything like that you need.
And can someone call that hotline anonymously, or do they have to give out their information when calling that hotline?
It's completely confidential, so they do not need to provide any information. If they feel that that's necessary, they are definitely allowed to do that. But if they want to remain anonymous, we are completely confidential, so they will be anonymous.
Thank you. And why are advocates important for victims, especially in incidences of sexual violence? why is it so important to have an advocate? Especially when, some women may think, they may be embarrassed or ashamed or scared or just overall traumatized. Why would they want to have an advocate?
So I think this is something we kind of all know. This system is rigged against survivors. It's not up to par to what it should be. It is not victim-centered enough. And that's kind of the role that we try and take. We really just want to be those people who step in first and say, I believe you. You don't even have to tell me your story. I believe you. I'm here for you. I'm going to do what I can for you. And that's not really something that you're going to get out of the legal system or with like law enforcement, just because it's not their job to believe them. It's their job to, do their little legal aspects. But it is 100% our job to believe and support these survivors. So I've been in the hospital before and I'm there and I'm like, I think this person doesn't really want me here. I think they were just kind of being nice and saying, oh, you can stay. But then at the end of the night, like, you could tell by the way she was just talking to me and telling me bye, like, it just meant something to have someone there on her side in her court. And I'll say too, in the court cases we have, having victim advocates, I mean, we have had instances where we've had like 10 to 15 of our volunteers show up. And there's just something so powerful about having so many women standing behind another woman and saying, I'm on your side. I believe you.
So one of the things you do is go to court proceedings with the advocates. That's something that you can do as an advocate?
Yes. If the victim or survivor would like for us to, we will go through the entire court process with them. Sometimes we'll even go to like hearings for them if they don't, want to go to their particular hearing. But then definitely throughout the trial process, we try to be there every day, morning to end of courtroom, try to get as many of our volunteer advocates as we can there, just, so they don't feel alone through that process.
And I also think too, I think, in society, we all think that people have people. So there are some people out there that really do not have anyone or anyone close enough to them that they can, tell or express themselves or say what happened. There's been a lot of times, when someone goes to the hospital, you would automatically think, well, they have somebody there with them, right? They've got a family member there. They have a friend there. That's not necessarily true. A lot of them are there by themselves because either A, they don't have anyone that they trust or are comfortable enough to have there with them, or they're embarrassed, they're overwhelmed, they just don't want to know. And so we're kind of like their safe haven. And then, by being present, at the time of, someone's crisis and disclosure, you're a part of the first step in the journey to healing, that the survivors will be making. So it's just really important for us to be there, just because a lot of people just don't have anyone and we're their safe haven. And, there's a lot of information we can help them with because we also give them that control back. So we don't tell them what, they have to do. We don't tell them, we give them their options, but like after they've already felt they've lost that control once they've, experienced the sexual assault. So our job as well is trying to help give them that power and that control back. And, some people, if they do have a friend or a family there, it's human nature for us to say, you have got to do this. We have got to go to the police station and we've got to press charges, because you're mad and you love them and you want that for them. And we probably inside feel like, oh, yes, that's how we feel too. But we're not trained that way. We're trained to say, you know what, this is totally your decision. You do what you need to do and do what you feel is best for you, because you're the one that's got to go through this healing process. And we're just there to help you through it, hold your hand through it, and make sure that you're doing the decision that's best for you. Because when someone goes to the hospital, that's what's so great that we do have, Jane Doe kits, which is basically when someone goes to the hospital, if they're unsure what they want to do, if they want to talk to the police, file a report, press charges, they have the option of having that DNA taken, and it can be stored for 90 days. So they have 3 months to decide what they want to do. Because when something like that happens, you may have the, You may be like, okay, I want to press charges. I'm not blah, blah, blah. And then you may have someone that's like, I don't want to ever think about this again. I want to leave. But we all change our minds. We're all humans. So you may feel completely different in a month, in a week, 3 months. And so we're just able to be there to kind of guide them and give them those options and let them know about that.
Other thing is we have SANE nurses that perform the kits, and they are incredible. They do such an awesome job working with the victims. But once they have finished completing the kit, their part in the process is finished. So once you walk out of the hospital, you are no longer in contact with that SANE nurse. So that is our job, to continue to walk alongside the victims in the healing process, in providing options. But we step in and we continue the process. We don't end our job at the hospital. That's honestly where our job begins.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we really make such an effort, I think, to make that initial connection, so that we're kind of like one of those first positive things, positive people that they see after the assault, and that can continue being hopefully a positive experience for them.
So would you guys consider your jobs hard? Like, is it a hard job?
I would say it's more challenging because the legal system is not always there for the victim. It's a very victim blaming crime. And so that makes our job challenging because we can't control how other people think or feel.
I feel like this is a super common question that I've gotten, and I'm sure everybody else has gotten whenever we tell people what we do. They're just like, oh my gosh, is that job hard? It must be so hard to do that. And like Amanda said, it's challenging. There are challenges that come with every job, especially in a service field like this. But it takes a lot of persistence in remembering that you're not in this for you. What you're doing is necessary, and you just have to stay on top of it. It takes a lot of, like I said, it takes a lot of persistence and just following through and advocating. But it is challenging, but it's not anything that I would trade.
Okay.
I think for me, it depends on the day. Some cases affect you differently than others. I think for me, I love working with college students, especially like college-aged women. And those are honestly the cases that I would prefer to go on, just because I feel like I can relate most to that age group. But I think the thing that gets me most is how frustrating it is to act in this role and see how everyone else in the world reacts to sexual assault. I think now that I am equipped with this knowledge of what a victim, goes through, how they don't have a specific reaction, how there's not like anything that they did or did not do that caused this to happen. I think that it's just really frustrating seeing the world view it so differently. I mean, you could go on any YouTube video where a survivor is bravely telling their story, and there are comments below calling them a liar, saying they're in it for the money. So yeah, I think that is absolutely the hardest part for me, and just seeing like the case after case of injustice done even in the court systems. Chanel Miller's case for one, the Brock Turner. So yeah, I think for me that's the hardest part.
How do you guys control your emotions and maintain your composure when you're dealing with such serious subjects? And do you ever fail at controlling those emotions?
I think it's something that you have to learn to control your emotions. But for me personally, I try and take a deep breath whenever I'm walking into a situation that may be a crisis situation. Take a deep breath and tell myself, you can feel everything you want to feel and feel all the hurt that you need to feel about this after you're done. But right now you need to put your game face on and you need to show up for this person. You can cry in the car on the way home, but let them cry to you. It's not your time to be hurting right now. So, and of course, it's in more serious situations and in very traumatic situations, it's easy to kind of feel yourself, like your eyes welling up and everything like that. But it's just a constant thinking through it. No, I can think about this later. I need to focus on this person.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with Brantley on this one. And I also think that, like she said, like putting yourself in the role. You're the role of advocate. You're not in the role of sympathizer, counselor, anything like that. And I know for me, like when I get hospital calls, like I almost get like an adrenaline rush. So even volunteers, they'll be like, how do you like go into the hospital and not let it affect you? And it's not that it doesn't affect you. It's just that you kind of know the role you have to play there. And that's the role that you put on. And that's the role that you take. And I do think, it's easier for some people than others. I could not work with child welfare. That would not be something I could do. But this is something I can do. So I think it's important to just kind of understand what you can handle and what you can't handle.
I also think, too, it's like when you get somewhere, like you just have to make up your mind. You know that you have to be the strong one there. But when you're thrown into a situation like that, like maybe after you leave and you think about it, you're like, wow, that was pretty tough. But when you're like in the motions of it, it like almost comes natural, I think, that you're just like, you're a fighter for them. So I think that's a lot. Like, I agree with everything Brantley and Faith said. I mean, I think it's just when you get in that position and you do see someone that's very vulnerable and they're going through something, sometimes I think there's like a fire lit up in you that you're like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm your fighter. You are not alone. We're going to do this together. And so I think that's just my mindset. Anytime that I get that call or anything like that, it's like fire goes up me and I'm like, okay, I'm here. What do we need to do? What you need me to do for you to help you? So
it reminds me sort of like first responders, which you are first responders to that case, but firemen and policemen and medical professionals all have to react in the way that you guys are describing. So it is really like a first responder responding to a crisis situation. So you put yourself in that mind. That's what I'm hearing you guys say.
Yeah, I would say so. And also, I do want to say that I think something that we really have going for us and we've also really like strived towards since Amanda and I started is we've built a support group within ourselves so that when we have those hard cases, I know that I can call Amanda at 2 a.m. and she may not be super happy, but she's going to answer. And she's going to talk with me throughout this case and go through it. So I think that's also really important to have that support and to feel comfortable and okay with working together on these things. And like you can count on each other to be that emotional support afterward.
And I think self-care, going along with what Faith is saying, just practicing that self-care of, just finding things that whenever you've had a really long, hard day, you go home and you decompress, however that may be, whatever your self-care looks like. Like a lot of my self-care is after I've left the hospital or after I've left the police station, I get in my car and I turn my music up and I do my sunroof and I just like, that's what I do. And it kind of helps me like, okay. And, and reflect on, I just helped that person. I did the best I could with that person. And I just will continue doing what I got to do and knowing that, just the self-care and knowing that you've got your team that, is with you. Me and Faith have been working together for a while now. And so, you do build a certain bond with people. And even though Brantley hasn't been there that long, you just build a bond because you understand each other. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You just know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a two-part question. What is your favorite part about the job, and what is your least favorite part about the job?
My favorite part is helping victims and being able to be their support system. I love helping people. I love people. So especially when someone's going through a hard time, I like to step in and be that person that someone else needs. I always tell all our volunteers and interns, it does seem scary, at first, but like I always say, when you walk into that situation, think of who you need who you would need to be if you were in that situation or if that was your best friend sitting there. So I love being there for somebody and knowing I can support somebody. My least favorite part of the job is fundraising. Is probably going out and trying to, ask people to help with our nonprofit organization. Because when you say the word rape, people look at you funny. It's a very hard conversation, especially if people don't really understand it, because I feel like we kind of live, I wouldn't say it's a small town, but people just don't really, if it doesn't happen to you, then a lot of people don't really think about it, and it's not on their radar. And so I think a lot of people, when they hear rape, they're like, oh, okay. Or they'll just kind of look at you and say, oh, I'm not interested. Like, they just don't want any kind of conversation about it, because anytime it's an uncomfortable word to a lot of people. And so when you try to talk about it, or you're trying to get fundraisers, people kind of cut you off after rape. And that's probably my least favorite. Is I love everything. I love helping the victims. I love doing the law enforcement trainings. I love being in the community, telling people what they need to do if this was to happen to them, if they're sexually assaulted. It's the fundraising. It's just trying to ask people, because people just don't have the same mindset as we do. And, they don't really, and especially if you don't understand nonprofits, because that's something I had to learn a lot about. I didn't really understand how nonprofits worked. And, I think people are under their assumption, oh, well, they get plenty of money, they get this, blah, blah, but that's not necessarily how it works. And so that's my least favorite.
Because you guys are actually helping victims, but at the same time trying to secure funding in order to stay
to help them. Yes.
Right. And you do hear about other nonprofits a lot, whether it's with animals and children, homelessness. There are a lot of issues out there, and rape, like you said, is not a common one.
Right. Yeah.
So what about you, Faith?
So I think my favorite part of this job is the education and awareness aspect. So like doing things like the podcast, making YouTube videos, really just going out in our community and saying, this is an issue, let's talk about it. Let me tell you how you can be a good friend after a friend has been assaulted. Let me tell you the steps you need to take if you've been assaulted and want to get a kit done. Just making more people aware of the issue and how to just make our society as a whole better about responding and better about knowing. So yeah, I really like that part.
I just noted too that the correlation between your favorite and her least favorite, because the more education, awareness, and prevention you have, the more approachable, the more we can change the culture in the community surrounding rape. So, right. So what you like and what is a very important piece of advocacy will make the fundraising and the funding for this type of, for this issue to be served. So what's your least favorite?
Well, this also just goes back to the bad days, just the injustice. I can specifically think of a court case that we went to. And it was the first one I went to as like a full-time job, and I was naive, and I was going in thinking the court system is going to prove us right. We're going to get this guy. We are going to go. And then I remember the last day when the verdict was read that he wasn't guilty, I almost started crying myself. I was just angry because I just did not understand how they could see what I saw and not prove that verdict. So I think it's realizing how much further we have to go and how limited our job is until that progress occurs.
Got it.
I would say that my favorite thing is knowing that you're able to show up and be what somebody needs in those moments. Like, this could honestly be one of the worst moments of somebody's life, and you're able to meet them right there and say, I got you. Like, what do you need from me? I will be that. I will do that for you. And I think that how could you not think that that's such an incredible thing? I think that is definitely my favorite part. And following up with Faith, I would say my least favorite part, while I haven't been here very long, I just know you see all over the news things that happen, and just injustice, like she was saying, and it's just frustrating, and you want people to empathize and understand, and there's so often a stigma of, she was wearing this, she was drinking, he was acting this way towards me, so they deserved it, they were asking for it. And it's very frustrating seeing that all over the news, seeing people have such a mindset, and it's just very frustrating for me seeing that. So that would probably be my least favorite part.
Okay, so as we come to an end, what would your message be for survivors? Let's leave them with a message from you.
I guess my message would just be that I would want survivors to know, and their families and friends to know, that you're not alone, that there are people out here that are there for you. And as Brantley said, I got you. My message to them would be, we're here to help you. Let us help you. And that things are going to be hard, and it's not going to be easy, and but you will, after time will, heal in bits and pieces. And it may at the time feel like your whole world has fell apart, but there are people here to help, pick up some of your pieces to help you rebuild your life. But it will be long and it will be hard, but we're there for them. But that's really the main thing, is just letting them know that we're here for them, and that it is going to be a process, but we're here for that process for them, and that there is healing. It's just going to take time.
Thank you.
I think my message would be, this is not your fault, and it's not fair that you have to put your life back together and hurt so badly because somebody did something to you. But you're not alone in this, and you have so many people who are willing to stand beside you and work with you.
I think my message is very similar to theirs. I believe you. I support you. We're here for you. Please, please, please reach out to us. Reach out to your local crisis center. Don't be afraid to seek out help. I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm sorry that society still isn't on the level they should be with knowing how to respond to you and knowing how to get you your justice. But keep fighting, because will be done with this job in December, but I know for the rest of my life that I will feel like an advocate for this cause, just because of what I've seen throughout my couple of years here. So I will keep fighting for you. So you keep fighting too.
Well, I want to thank you ladies for giving me the opportunity to host you guys and to dive into the life of a victim advocate. I thank you. I thank you for your work in the community. I thank you for your work in this incredibly challenging world of sexual violence and the injustices that we have. So I thank you and I commend you.
Well, thank you, Dondra. You have been a wonderful host. We have so enjoyed. I knew I made the right choice when I asked you to be host.
And for the record, Dondra is a phenomenal intern.
Yes.
And she has brought so much to RCEA as an intern. And she is like a part of our family here at RCEA. I always like to say, you come in as strangers, you become friends, and then you leave as family. So we are very sad about Faith leaving as well. And eventually Dondra will no longer be an intern with us come May, but they'll always be a part of RCEA, and appreciate them so much for everything and all the hard work they've done for the agency.
So Faith, put that on my highlight reel.
I will do that.
My own little highlight reel.
There we go.
And I also, just because this is the last podcast episode that I will be on, I wanted to say a big thank you to the listeners. We would not have kept making podcasts if we'd been getting like 2 views a thing, but you guys have really helped us out, and we've appreciated it so much. And we're really aiming to get the word out there to whoever needs it. And you even just giving us a quick listen or clicking on it is helping us do that. So thank you guys. And thank you guys for giving us this platform to talk and to be advocates. So thank y'all. And I'm going to really miss doing this. But Brantley's going to take over and do an amazing job. And of course, you'll still be hearing from Amanda and Dondra too. But thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.